A lot of our technology comes from the reverse engineering out of the spacecraft. It is still functional and it's still in operation. So it's pretty important what this thing is. All the nations worldwide are up there with the United Nations, and they're all acting, working together. The point is that we're not alone out here in this universe. The reason I bring this up is, if no one ever went to war over a math problem amongst humans, don't you think it would also be logical that we wouldn't go to war with E.T. when he shows up? And if E.T. does show up, what are we going to do? Babble? Start a war between another planet because of miscommunications? No, we need a communication base that is so mathematically certified, both frontwards and backwards, that when we say something, it means exactly what we say, so that there is no subjective interpretation, translation. So it's very important for us to be correct 100% of the time when we're dealing with ET. Otherwise, they're going to throw a rock at us like they did 375 million years ago at the Yucatan Peninsula and get rid of the dinosaurs, which you all know about. So we don't want to have rocks thrown at us. So the planet, all the governments of the planet are looking at this math interface as being a correct way to communicate, stop wars on planet Earth, as well as communicate with ET when they show up. And as many of you who do the research and get on the internet know that there's probably a lot of different ETs already influencing this planet with all of our little toys that we have, our cell phones and computers and TVs. So it is relevant. The school systems in China are adapting our quantum program. All the universities and colleges are going to be teaching it this year. As a result of these patents that came out from my 23 days in China, they realized that they were going to order all 150 trade partners to follow suit. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do business with China. The biggest new thing that's coming on the market is the word lithium. Lithium makes for the batteries. Now, China currently controls 80% of the lithium on planet Earth. 20%, the other 20% was known to be in Mount Weld in Australia, better known as the Linus mine. It's a 1 cubic mile of lithium that they've uncovered. Colombia, 3 years ago, somebody wanted to find out how big the salt flats were. So they drilled down 15 meters into the salt. And they found a 25 square mile lithium, a pure lithium bed of lithium. Enough lithium for the next 200 years to build about 600 billion automobile batteries. Yeah. So now if you add thorium to lithium, you can get 8 times more power out of the same size battery. Think of an ordinary car battery made out of lithium thorium that would have the power to drive a car 400 miles with a 4-minute recharge. That's all. Now, that's technology. I know battery technology. I built my first perpetual motion motor when I was 16 years old, my first laser beam when I was 12. I've been on the cutting edge of weird, futuristic stuff ever since I was a little kid. And if you do enough research on me, you're going to find out that I was taken when I was 8 years old. I went into a UFO for 3.5 hours. They put a machine on top of my head. And whatever they did to me, they put all this information into my head. And why I've been able to build this program without any interruptions from anybody for the last 32 years. And I fielded over 100,000 questions at seminars. And I haven't missed any. So you cook up the best question you can think of, and I'll tell you the facts. I'll tell you the facts going all the way back 8,500 years and how it's going to influence all the cross-referencing with it. People go like, that's impossible. You can't know that kind of information. Ask me the question. We'll find out. Now, I did the seminar in Bellingham, Washington. I had 86 people in the audience, and I told everyone, I says, I'm going to answer all your questions today. And one gentleman on my right side here, he stands up. He was about 75 years old. And he says, that's a pretty bold statement. He says, you don't know what kind of questions we're going to ask. So how can you say you know all of our answers? I said, tell you what, you be the official question counter. I says, and you count how many questions I'm going to answer in the next 2 days. So he went ahead and he counted, and at the end of 5 o'clock on Sunday, he stands up and he says, well, that was impressive. You answered 125 questions successfully, including history, and I agreed with every answer you gave. He says, I got two more questions. He says, who is God? He says, well, that's probably the easiest question I've been asked since I started this. Now, remember I said at the beginning of this seminar, what is a thought? Hold a thought in your hand. A thought is not of this world. Okay, everyone in this room studies this word God. Matter of fact, we have 5,000 different sounds of words for the word God. It's a very unique word. Now, you also, when you study God, you also study the devil, or what evil is. So you have to, it's called perspective. You have to know what's good and you have to know what's bad. So you have an understanding of what choice is. Now, because you have choice, you can choose to be a good person or a bad person. Now, everyone in this room, you will read different books at different ages, at different times. You will talk to different people, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your ministers at the school, at the church, teachers, and all through life you accumulate information. The end result is we all have 1,000 separate definitions that we have accumulated to answer one word. So, and that word, God, because you all have 1,000 different sources of research to answer that one word, now says that God has created man's image. Image, imagination, creation, art. So each one of you formulates your own definition based on your own subjective interpretation of your own educational capacity, your own IQ. IQ is based on the amount of percentage of your brain activity that you use for thinking. To come to a conclusion, to stand in front of a mirror, look at yourself and say, I know who God is, based on these definitions. And no one, I don't care who you are, can tell you who your God is because they weren't there for your 1,000 points of study. And everyone in this room has a different 1,000 points of study and answer the same word. And you also have 1,000 points of study to answer the bad things. What is evil? What is wrong? What is a lie? It's called perspective. So we all choose to be good. We all choose to be correct. And we all choose to stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself and say, I know who God is. And I believe in that person. Or I believe in that entity. And that's the definition of who God was. And everyone in the audience applauded. Because who is it? It's your own subjective interpretation of what you understand that word to mean, based on your ability to look yourself in the eye and say, I accept this to be the fact. And that's as simple as it gets. He says, okay, he says we all agree that that's the definition. He's got one more word for you. What do you know about women? And I says, absolutely nothing. He says, see, you can't answer every question. And 38 women stood up and said, that's the right answer. And all the and all the men in the audience applauded. We're going to go through a sentence structure now. The first part of a sentence, we use the word for. If you look at my website, it's 400 pages long. Every sentence starts with the word for as the preposition. We use the as a neutral article. You have, when it comes to articles, or what we call lodio, we'll put a square bracket because this means no contract. You have a, and, the, this, these. Those are the 5 that I use in my program. Pretty simple. It seems how you have you have 38 articles and we only use 5. Second part is there's a consequence. Now, a consequence is a fact. In other words, I stand here and I look at this room and I have knowledge. My knowledge allows me to understand people, tables, chairs, architectural structures. I specialize in 115 different fields. Being an engineer, background, metallurgy, heat treat specialist, chemist, biotech, medical fields. I understand medical fields. I can look at every part of this building. I'm a master mason, bricklayer, concrete, lay tile, carpeting, 6,000 yards. I hold knowledge of 180 different fibers used in carpeting. Chemistry to put those things together, what your clothes are made out of, cotton, wool, polyester, rayon, all the different combinations of that. Whether it be the coefficient of expansion, allows me the metals, gases, chemicals from all the different parts of the periodic table and how they're used to create different elements. I was the cook for Chemtron electrodes, made super metals, stuff that never was ever heard of before. 1988, I wrote the math interface on all metals. Was called the polymer technology, proving that all metal is plastic, that all glass is plastic, that all plastic is plastic. And so the consequences of having knowledge creates a cause. As we get older, we acquire more and more knowledge, which allows us to understand the consequences of the facts. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to think. Thinking, I'll put that in ing. Thinking is a verb, which is motion. Now, running is not a verb. Jumping is not a verb. Driving is not a verb. And thinking, you have to think before you can do all these things. Order of operations, folks. You always have to follow the order of operations to have a legal contract. Even writing the sentence. Writing the sentence is not see the pen. See is a pronoun, the is an adverb, making pen a verb. That's a second grade reader. See the ball. See Jack run. See is an adverb, making now run to Jack to be an adjective of the word run, which is a pronoun, which means nothing. You see, these are first grade readers. They're a complete lie. Don't get your kids tied up in that. You want to teach them how to read? Go to my website. That'll really fry them. 4, when you think, okay, we look, this is, we'll put this to be sight, or see. You see stuff. And you need a see see treaty. You need a SEA pass. Sea pass means that you can move a vessel in a sea of space. So when you have knowledge, you have these positions that you're going to see and absorb points of information. You hear points of information. You're using your 5 senses to absorb information. And with that information, we then store it as a computer. So the consequences is a storage. Just like a computer. And we keep all this information in until we're asked the question. Then you go into motion, just like when you enter in the keyboard. You might put stuff in, it's going to store it. When you want it out, you hit enter, ask it a question, you hit enter, and it does a search. It goes thinking, and now gives you a claim. With is a possession. Possessive, which becomes your claim. Now, claims are, you only have 2 different things. You either have a plus or a minus. You're either going to have an award, not award, you're going to have a value. See, the word A means no award, W-A-R-D. Award. Now, the word award is because the contract is written in adverb verb, means you get nothing. You might get a future tense, futuristic Federal Reserve note. Or you might get a promise, pay to, in future time, which is a pronoun adverb scenario. But you don't have any now time facts. So therefore, with the possessive, you possess a claim. The claim has to be defined. So we're going to go here 5 of the contract. Now the contract has to be of the contract terms. Number 6 is with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. Okay, what does that mean? Well, there's a thing, you hear the word right, you hear the word truth. Truth is an opinion, by the way. Everybody believes in God, that's your truth, but that truth is based on your opinion of subjective interpretation, so therefore truth is an opinion. And O means no, and PIN means to attach, and ION is contract. So you have no attached contract because your subjective interpretation of your ability to communicate with any other individual is based on that other person's ability to understand what you're saying in the first place, which is babble, because it's all adverb-verb scenario. Now, I may be talking to you in adverb-verb because that's the only language you understand. If I stood up here and talked to you and for this knowledge of this individual is with the claim of the correct parse, syntax, grammar, start using prepositional phrases, this would not jar well with your perception. And you'd kind of get lost. So it takes about 200 hours to adapt to this technology. And you will get a migraine headache because you're all brainwashed not to see an article. You might think that's a joke. It's not. Sublimic messaging through TV, radio, newspapers and magazines, school books have been there your whole life, right in front of you. We hide it in plain view, just like we hide a flag in plain view, and we cancel this contract by putting a Coke can on top of the staff, which is a phoenix in this case. If the wingtips are down, it's a phoenix. If they're up, it's an eagle, which is postal. So you can either be under postal guise or you can be under the Vatican guise. Either way, you're under somebody's guise, G-U-I-S-E. It's not a disguise, it's a guise, G-U-I-S-E. Dis meaning no, guys. This means no, by the way. Finally, number 7 is by the author. Authority. Authentic. Authorization. And what's the symbol for gold on the periodic table? AU. He who holds the gold makes the rules, has the authority. Ever wonder why gold was the key? Why it was AU and not something else? Because gold is spelled G-O-L-D, not AU, but AU is authority. And throughout history, gold has been the medium, going all the way back to the beginning. About 8,500 years ago, they decided that gold, because of its beauty and both its ability to withstand tarnishment, would be used as a standard metal on this planet. It's also an industrial metal because gold is a molecule that you can make a 128 gigabyte circuit board on a 20 nano chip. And a single atom of gold can be a transistor, a capacitor, a diode, based on its configuration and where it appears in the circuit board. They would build a circuit board against that wall with 128 gigabytes of information on it, and then photocopy it onto a 20 nano chip, and then grow that in a cloud chamber of argon. And that's how they would build those chips. So that's how technology, and then he's just stack them together. Everything's done with laser welding, electron beam welding, because the computers are unique. They build themselves now. A 1/4 inch green 1/4 inch quartz crystal run by 2 green holographic lasers are an 800 gigabyte processor with a 64 terabyte memory capacity. The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. Information is recorded inside a quartz crystal. Our human brain is a 500 terabyte capacitor. That's what you're rated for, 500 terabytes. And these little puppies are only 1/4 inch, and they have thousands of 1 full square inch, which are 64 times 64, which would be 3,600 trillion capacity per crystal. And they have thousands of these banks of information run on green holographic lasers. Computers are building computers today. They have advanced, we've had artificial intelligence to make determinations about what a lawsuit is and how it's run at the United States Supreme Court for 12 years now. About 2000s when they implemented the artificial intelligence to make decisions. And when the computer figures out that we're the virus, enough said about that. So, these are the parts of what a sentence is. Now, a sentence has to be written frontwards and backwards. If you notice, we have for of, is, with of, with, by. Now, after the with of, we can have as many of these, like I have one sentence in the book, last page of the book here. This is my book. It's 96 pages long. It's written in 9-point print. It's the only book in the world that's written in quantum language. I have no competition. I have no plagiarizers anywhere on the planet. It's kind of unique to be one source of 8 billion people and nobody's giving me any competition. I have a monopoly on this thing, virtually. And it isn't because I have a monopoly. It's because it's so unique. The condition of math, the condition of a fact in a world of 8 billion fictions is so unique that it stands alone and there's no plagiarizing. All the judges, all the attorneys on planet Earth in all languages have been ordered to search history. Go into the archives of written history going back 8,500 years. Is this an original program? The answer was yes. This whole thing is 100% original. That there's never been anything like it on the planet for communication skills. So the books took me, this is 8,000 hours or 80,000 hours of my work put in 96 pages. This is part of it. All the new stuff is updated on the internet, on my website. But this gives you about an 80% solid base that you can hold in your hand and read. And it takes about 200 hours. I charge $200 for the books because they're the only ones like it on the planet. There's no competition for it. So they're very unique. People that have them guard them. They don't treat them like garbage, like the local newspaper, because when you put value on something, it becomes valuable. If I gave you this marker, you'd use it, put it down, and walk away. If I charge you $200 for this marker, you'd put it in a glass jar, put it up on your fireplace, and say, "That's valuable." You know, because of what it means to you. Education is the same way. You go to college and you pay for an education, you put value on it, you stay awake in class. If somebody else gives you a scholarship and your schooling is free, you sleep through class. Or you put a tape recorder and say, "I'll study later," but you don't learn anything. Yes?